Hey, good people, it's Ron Johnson, and this is Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it's Friday. Yes, it's Friday. So you know what that means. We don't have Reggie Wilson, of course, because it's the holiday weekend. We know Reggie is off busy doing KARE11 things, but we still have Julia Daniels, which is more important than having Reggie anyway. We got Sam Ekstrom joining us, the
Shots
executive
fired.
producer, the producer that does it all, and I'm Ron Johnson, your host. Again, this is the Locked On Sports Friday Roundtable. We have a ton of topics to talk about, people. Like with you, when you think about what's going on in the state of sports, now it has slowed down for a little bit, but then here comes LeBron, here comes Bronny, here comes the Timberwolves, Royce Lewis again. I mean, the WNBA, Kelsey Plum going off, Caitlin Clark is about to face the Olympic team. I mean, there's so much we could talk about in sports, people. But again, this is the Friday Roundtable. No, I don't have a song for you guys today. But we got to get into these topics. Let's get locked in on these topics. What you got for us, Sam?
Yeah, it was crickets in the Wolves free agency until Wednesday. They made a move. Joe Ingles, PJ Dozier. Not the most inspiring names, but we'll talk about how the Wolves have rounded out the roster.
Royce Lewis is injured again. We all saw this coming. We'll talk about what this means for the Twins.
And, I mean, come on now. Come on, people. I know you wondered if we're going to talk about this, but we are. Wednesday, Netflix, appointment television. If there's anything, I mean, I know Beverly Hills Cops just came out on Netflix. I know Kevin Hart has a movie coming out on Netflix, but Justin Jefferson is coming to Netflix. I got some key things I'm looking for in this, some very key things. There's some other things about other receivers within this league, but that's coming out. So we got to talk about the debut of receiver and what we're most excited for with that. Because, I mean, it's Justin Jefferson, it's Josh Dobbs, it's Kevin O'Connell, it's Kirk Cousins. That's going to be a lot to unpack for this season, as well as one of the biggest contracts in NFL history is going to be talked about, I'm pretty sure, on this show. But again, I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom, Julia Daniels. And we want you to know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKED ON. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKED ON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. But remember, this is way better than scalpers. You don't have to worry about if your tickets are real or not. You don't have to worry about if you're getting gouged by ticket prices. This is a very simple app. Like I said, when I was in Detroit last time I used the Game Time app, I got 11 tickets to go see the Tigers play the Twins in a doubleheader. Where else can you do that and not worry about, hey, do you have 4? Do you have 6? Can I get one from you? I got 11 tickets on the Game Time app. I might have to use it because you know what? I never used the code Locked On, so maybe I'll see if I can catch a Tigers game while I'm here in Detroit. Again, I'm Ron Johnson. This is Locked On Sports Minnesota, and the roundtable starts now. What you got for us, Sam?
All right. Well, the Western Conference has been busy in the NBA. The Pelicans trade for DeJounte Murray. The Mavs sign Klay Thompson. The Thunder trade for Alex Caruso. They sign Isaiah Hartenstein. And the Timberwolves counter with Joe Ingles and PJ Dozier to round out the roster. Those end up being the big moves. Slow-mo, sayonara, goodbye. Monte Morris, goodbye. Jordan McLaughlin, we don't quite know yet, but it seems like goodbye. It seems like the Wolves are letting them all walk. They bring in a couple new faces. Joe Ingles, older guy, guy that Ron Johnson identified on the Minnesota basketball party on Wednesday. Props to Ron. I think Jack Borman also called that one out. So we were on the Joe Ingles bandwagon as of Wednesday. The Wolves bring him in for a minimum deal. And this is the kind of veteran I think that you would want to replace Kyle Anderson. A bigger body who can defend, obviously, probably the 4, maybe the 5 position. Someone that can shoot the 3 at kind of a ridiculous clip. He's a 40% three-point shooter or better in some cases. Obviously, the age, the athleticism might concern you, but beggars can't be choosers when you've got no money to spend. And the Timberwolves bring in a guy that's got a ton of playoff experience. He knows Rudy Gobert. He knows Mike Conley from his days in Utah, longtime member of the Utah Jazz. So while it's not Klay Thompson, it's not DeJounte Murray, it's not Lauri Markkanen, who the Wolves have been linked to in a possible trade, but it's Joe Ingles. It's someone that is going to add depth and experience to your roster. PJ Dozier, I don't really know what to. I think this is really a 11th, 12th guy on your bench. I don't think he's going to steal playing time from anybody. I think this is just sort of break glass in case of emergency kind of signing. I know he's coming off an injury last year. I don't have as many hot takes on him. I like the Ingles signing, though, quite a bit. Julia, what do you have on that?
Yeah, I mean, he's 36, right?
Yeah, almost 37, I think.
Yeah, so I think that they were looking for a more veteran presence. I just think it's such a you're sitting there and you're like, oh, okay. This is kind of anticlimactic a little bit. I will say PJ Dozier, he was in Europe this past season. So he's taken a season off from the league. He has some playoff experience, though. I believe he's played in a few playoff games. But I think overall, these are just some cheaper depth options for the Wolves. I don't think there's a ton to say about these guys. It's not like, oh, so exciting that they're going to be here and we can't wait to go to their pressers and things like that. I think it's just, like you said, some money-saving moves. And I think when it comes to like Joe Ingles, it's just like a little bit more consistency from somebody that has a little bit more experience in the league compared to guys like Slow-Mo that they had who showed flashes and had some bright spots, but I think maybe you have a little bit more consistency when you bring a guy like Joe Ingles in. Only a 1-year contract, $3 million, I think, something like that. So yeah, I think it's a decent move. It's a little bit more than lateral, I would say, but I would think it's a good move for the Wolves, and especially when you've got guys like Mike Connolly, and he's going to be 36 this year, and heading into this season, you add a little bit more of that veteran presence that can still do things. So yeah, good move for the Wolves. PJ Dozier, I think maybe they'll get in some kind of situation in one random game one night and he'll go off and we'll see that and we'll have a PJ Dozier day. But I think when it comes to him, it's just like, okay, we'll see what happens there.
Don't we have like 4 former Jazz now that played together? We've got Nikhil, we've got Conley, we've got Gobert, and now we've got Ingles. We're putting together the gang from Salt Lake. We're Salt Lake East now in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, well, if Nova can do it in New York, the Jazz can do it in Minnesota. It's all about friendship. It's all about who you know. We know that. And here's where I go. So when I picked out Joe Ingles, I was looking at, because I remember we did this on the basketball party, and right away, your question, Sam, to our group was, who are some free agents that you think the Timberwolves could realistically get? I mean, of course, there's names we wanted. It's like, hey, let's go get LeBron and sign him to a $104 million deal and get Bronny and draft him in 50. It wasn't going to happen. We already know Rich Paul told the Timberwolves, don't draft Bronny. If you do, he's going to Australia. And so when you think about that with Joe Ingles, I text the group, Sam, and you saw that. I said, in my opinion, he's more athletic and he moves better, in my opinion, than Shlomo. And Jack Borman disagreed. I sent the group a video from YouTube of Joe Ingles this past season. I stand on business. I truly believe he moves better. And when I say move better, here's the thing about what people don't understand about basketball. It's not about youth or can this guy get up. Like, does Slow-Mo have a little bit more bounce? Yeah, but when does he use it? He doesn't use it. Joe Ingles is less athletic, but he moves better. If you watch those highlights, Sam, and I think I sent you guys like 8 plays, he shoots the ball way quicker. He gets the ball out of his hands. He creates the step back 3-pointer with that lefty shot. You're not seeing that from Shlomo. His step back is a step back, pause. Oh, wait, he's close. Let me pass it. Oh, wait, I could do it up and under. Anytime he does a move, I love the bench of the Timberwolves because they were like, wait, did Shlomo just do that? What's going on right now?
Wait, what do they say? They say his shot has a two-step authentication code or something?
It does. Like, it is. Like, every game, Sam, you know this. Every time I see Shlomo do something that, like, why didn't you just shoot it there? What are you waiting on? I would text, like, dude, what? Get him out of there. Like, why is he doing it? He's ruining the chemistry. What Joe Ingles brings you is if Anthony Edwards drives and 2 guys crash, he kicks it out to Ingles. Ingles is not shy. He's not going to hold on to the ball. He's going to fire that thing up. And he has that shot where he can catch it like Clay, and he can let it go quick. Like, he has that, because I saw a couple announcers say that numerous times on his shot. Like, man, he caught that at the elbow and just released it. Like, he can catch it at the elbow, and he doesn't have to bring it down like slow-mo or get his shot back off. He can catch it from here, and he can just let that thing fly. And so when you add in, like Sam said, a 40% shooter like that, I love it. Now, when it comes to PJ Dozier, he's a perimeter defender and he can shoot the three. I think that's a great guy to come in, get 5 to 6 minutes a game, maybe more if he earns, like Julia said, if he has a Nas Reed type of night, and all of a sudden we're like, oh my goodness, PJ just went off for 20 points. We'll take it. But he's a guy that's going to be consistent. He's going to defend the perimeter. He scored almost 10 points this season in Serbia. He came off of a ACL injury and played a full season overseas. So the fact that he was able to do that, knowing overseas the healthcare is not great, the trainers aren't great, and they really don't care about how much you play, I think he'll be fine coming back to a nice cushy Timberwolves job. Now he has to make the team. We know that. He got signed to a 1-year deal, but he still doesn't make it. But yeah, he will be a 10th, 11th guy off the bench, maybe earn himself some time behind the young Rob Dillingham. But he's a perimeter defender. I think they can bring in and get 5, 6 minutes when everybody's tired. But here's the thing. What were you gonna say, Sam?
Yeah. I just wanted to make one point. So Kyle Anderson sort of took himself out of 3-point shooting last year, and I know there was a report that his eye was bothering him a lot of last season, but he was not a threat from 3-point range last season. He was 11 of 48, 23% shooter from 3. Joe Ingles last year, 43% shooter from 3, 70 of 161. So higher volume, higher success rate, almost double slow-mo. So I think the Wolves actually add a much more credible perimeter threat, which is, that for me, that's good enough to make up for whatever Joe Ingles doesn't have. That to me is worth it.
Yeah, the athleticism that they're missing is defense. Joe Ingles is not as strong of a defender. He's not a guy that you can body up with Joker, but he is a guy that you can say, hey, just stay in front of Joker, man. Don't reach for the ball. Don't foul like Cat's going to do. Just play smart defense. And he is that. He's an older, savvy, like Julia said. I think that's truly the point. We need an older, savvy guy that, as a 6'9" wingman, if we say, hey, go sit on Joker for a little bit, he's smart enough to not get fouls. He's going to keep him up top. He's going to put that elbow in his back, push him out, irritate him a little bit, but not get that reach-in foul to try to steal the ball. And again, another veteran guy that if you take out some of your younger guys and you have younger guys on the floor and Joe Ingles is out there, he's going to space the floor out because at 6'9", he can take a 6'10" defender away from the basket. So I like the move. I said Joe Ingles right away after watching some highlights. I didn't know if they would be able to get him, but I think, again, relationships matter. The fact that he knows some of the front office guys, he knows some of the guys on the team, I think it helps. But 43% from 3, that's absolutely nuts. But if the Timberwolves, so you add Joe Ingles, you add Dozier, you might get some what's his name? You just said his name, Jordan McLaughlin back. We don't know yet, but you let go of Kyle Anderson, you let go of Monty Morris. If there were no other moves to be made, Julia, right now, what would you give their offseason grade for the Timberwolves?
I would give them a B- just because it was not like particularly entertaining for me from a journalist standpoint. But maybe a B+ actually. I say I don't think there's any moves where I'm like, oh, that was dumb. I'll be honest. When I first moved here, it was 2 weeks into the job that they made the huge Rudy trade. And we were all like, D-, terrible move. What are we doing? You trade away half your roster for this guy. And ended up working pretty well. So I have some confidence in the Wolves. And honestly, I don't think they did anything where we're like, that was stupid. I think they've done mostly positive things for their roster so far. So yeah, I give them B+.
Yeah, I'd say if we come back and Joe Ingles starts hitting 4 to 5 threes a night, I think we're going to revisit this and everybody's going to be like, oh my God, Tim Connelly's a genius. Because I was on I hated the Rudy Gobert thing. And then all of a sudden, not going to lie, like when they were number 1 and they were defending and they were gelling together, I'm like, wow, okay, Tim, I see you. And so I feel like, Julie, with your comment there, because your off season wasn't entertaining, I feel like Tim Connelly's going to have to put on one of those outfits from Gladiator and stand up on top of, I don't know, the Minneapolis Bridge and look off to the crowd and say, are you not entertained? Midway through the season. Russell Crowe, that's what Russell Crowe was in the Gladiator. But Sam, what do you think grade wise?
Yeah, I think the draft is what pushes this one over the top into that B range, like Julia said. The free agency stuff it's kind of a wash. Anderson and Morris for Ingles and Dozier, it almost cancels each other out. But then the draft, adding Dillingham, adding Shannon, that's a big part of your offseason when you have no money. is adding players through the draft. They don't give up anything for 6 years, the 2030, 2031 pick. So to get a guy like Dillingham in here, I think it's all that makes it a positive offseason so far. They haven't lost an asset, I don't think, that is going to harm them severely next year. So I'd give it a B. I would say it's a B. It can't be an A because you didn't add a game changer, but you stayed the course, you kept your core together, and Tim Connolly's all about continuity. I know some GMs like to tinker. They get a good team, they like to tinker and add one more piece, and sometimes that works out. It has worked out in the past in the NBA, and sometimes it blows up in your face terribly. And Tim Connolly has said, we like our team. We just want to add some supplementary pieces around it, but we've got our core together. We're sticking with it.
Yeah, I think about the Clippers. The Clippers added pieces. They kept adding pieces, and it never worked. Look at the Philadelphia 76ers. They got rid of a piece, and then they picked up a piece from that same exact team. Like, it's almost like they're both just like, all right, he didn't work out for you. Let's see he'll work out for us. And Joel Embiid and Paul George with Maxey, I think it can work. But what I'm reading from a lot of, like, Pacers people, and people are saying Paul George is a killer. Like, he kills the team somehow, some way with his play. Like, it's not team oriented. It's I gotta be PG. I gotta go one-on-one. And so that tinkering, like the 76ers were fine without injury. If Joel Embiid, so that's where I look at it. When you think about that team, like, you have to be able to understand where they're going next, what's the opportunities there, and who's going to move the next piece. I think the Timberwolves are fine. I'll give them a B plus even because I really like Joe Ingles. I'm sorry, I like lefties. I like length. There's no reason I don't see him with this team being able to put up 8 shots to 12 shots a game, because Anthony Edwards is going to require a ton of, like, people. The more people start to hear about him, the more coaches are going to say, how do we stop this guy? How do I stop him? The minute he drives to your side, you crash. So if I'm crashing, I'm putting Ingles on the same go side as Anthony Edwards. Same as Luka. If you think about all the Luka passes when he does the stupid behind the back and all that stuff and the no looks, he's throwing it to the guy to his side. He's he's driving to. He's saying, look, if I drive and you don't go, I'm kicking it. If I drive and you sit, I'm taking this guy. And so that's the biggest key. Like, I think Anthony Edwards with Ingles, with Cat, with Nas, I mean, they didn't even lose guys. So now you just add another shooter. I think you take Slow-Mo out, you put Ingles on this team this past year, I think they might go a little bit further. I think they might hold on to the number 1 seed. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, and then the hold on to number sweet seed might mean not having to run into the Mavs until you have to run into the Mavs. Like, maybe you don't. Maybe they get knocked off by the Nuggets. I mean, there's so much we could play with the butterfly effect, but we got to move on because, oh man, the Twins had a top 10 player in the league. Everybody was talking about the trajectory of this team, and they're on a 101 win pace if they win right now. And look at this. Look at this. Look at us. We're back. We're back to talk about injuries, but we'll talk about that and much more. Of course, we got to talk about Netflix and Justin Jefferson, but Royce Lewis, you're like the new Byron Buxton, I guess. So we'll talk about all that much more after word from our sponsors.
And Game Time presents today's show. Yes, it's a little depressing to think about the Royce Lewis injury, but the Twins are still playing pretty good baseball. You can get to Target Field, and I just checked it this morning. You can get in the door tonight on the Game Time app for $26 for a good weekend tilt with the Astros, because Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. Getting tickets is faster and easier, and the prices actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. The last-minute deals are where it's at with Game Time. Save up to 60% when you buy last second for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. The flash deals are super cool. Exclusive in-app deals on the Game Time app, and the zone deals where you choose the section, Game Time chooses the seats, produces big-time savings for you as well. No hidden fees, panoramic views from your seat. The Game Time app is a very seamless experience to get your Twins tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA is the promo code, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Well, You know what? I don't even want to ruin this. I'm not going to be sad today. I'm not going to, I think Julia might have some better news for us. So, Julia, take it away.
Do I? I feel like I called this 2 weeks ago, right? I said, Royce will do well if he stays healthy. Here we are.
Yep.
Taylor's
Did you call it or did you jinx him?
We're not going to get into the details of everything. But I figured he wasn't going to stay healthy, obviously, for the rest of the season. And honestly, I don't think this will be the last time he's on IL this year. I don't know what it is. And I think it's interesting because he doesn't know what it is either. He talked on yesterday after the game. He did speak to media, which is the wonderful thing about Royce Lewis is like a lot of athletes when they get hurt. First of all, we'll just say his hip abductor is what's hurting him right now. So he's on 10-day IL, just to preface everything for everybody watching. It started, he said, in the series with the A's, and he started to feel some pain there. He said right now it's less pain. It's more like a deficit of strength in his abductor. But he talked yesterday about the injury, and he just spoke about how he doesn't really know why these things keep happening to him. He's spent a lot of money. He's invested a lot of his own money on his body and trying to stay healthy and figure out why these things keep happening to him. We don't really know, right? I think he said something like, even if somebody told me that if I smoked cigarettes like Babe Ruth used to do and that was going to help me, I would do that. I would do anything to not have these injuries happen to me. But the good news is Brooks Lee is batting 500 right now in his first 2 games in the bigs. But, obviously he's still a baby when it comes to these things. Royce, I think the main thing is, he's on 10-day IL right now. We've got the All-Star break coming up. We'll just have to see where he's sitting after that. I think there's complete and total confidence in Royce Lewis and his ability to perform when he is healthy. It's just the main problem is staying healthy. The Twins, yes, I think it does affect the Twins when he is not out there. I think that they have multiple times more of a shot at being a contender for the postseason when he is healthy. But that's the issue, obviously, that we keep talking about over and over again. He adds so much offense to this team. And I know he talks about, he can go DH, he can do this, but he wants to be in the field as well. I think you're just going to have to take your licks when you can get them with him, though. And if he has to DH, then they need to have him in the lineup for sure. But it just sucks. He's such a great guy. He's such an incredible baseball player. Like you said, Ron, top 10 in the bigs. People are talking about him all the time. It's sad to see this constantly happen to him. And even he doesn't know why this is happening. And if anybody's going to be completely honest with the media and just tell them what's up, it's going to be Royce Lewis. So I think it's just a big mystery for everybody right now as to why this is happening, what's going on. But honestly, it's cool to see Brooks Lee kind of step up and get the offense going a little bit for himself too. Last night, Jose Miranda was the big guy for the Twins. He went 5 for 5. So at least other guys are stepping up at some point. I will say Wednesday was a totally different story. But, Royce makes a huge difference when he's out there, and I think that it does affect the Twins' chances as we get further into the season for sure on whether he stays healthy or not. I think it's a big deal that he is consistently hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And for the people that don't know, though, before you go, Sam, I was going to say, do you know, one of you two, what was his first injury? What held him out at first?
That was a hamstring, a pretty serious hamstring strain.
Do we know which leg, though?
Quad?
Or was it quad? Was it quad?
Quad, yeah.
Sorry.
So which leg was the quad? Was it the same? Is the abductor and the quad the same leg, or was it opposite legs now?
I thought it was different. Julie, I don't know if you can confirm. I thought it was different.
And that's what I was going to say. Yeah, if you look it up, Julie, what I was going to say, if that is true, this is the thought behind this quick, soft tissue injuries. That's what sucks is when you hurt one leg, you now are overworking the other leg during rehab because that's your strong leg. And you feel like, how do I get back? Well, I got to push off this leg to get this leg. And then when you finally get back, that leg's been overworked, and so now it's going to get overstrained, and now you have the abductor issue. So it just and is that true? Was it the opposite leg, Julia? Have you confirmed
So
it yet?
this is his right abductor, and I want to say the quad was also, yeah, it was also his right leg. So this is his fourth significant injury to his right leg in 3 seasons.
See, and that's even worse now. So normally when it's the opposite, I was going to say, when it's the opposite and you're on the IL 10-day, it's literally just a strain from like stress. It's tired, it's working. When it's the same leg, then that's when doctors have to go in and look and see, is it blood flow? Is it veins? Is it something where the muscles aren't recovering fast enough, whatever, creating these type of, pulls? Are you not warming up right? Or once you're warming up, because I know there was a guy for the Gophers had a hamstring issue. And his hamstring issue was his abs. I had never heard of this. Instead of firing his core when he was losing his balance, he would fire his hamstrings. And so he was having hamstring strains that were pretty bad. And so, I mean, we'll see what's going on with Royce Lewis. But Sam, what were you going to say about him?
Yeah, well, and just to put a bow on this, it looks like the reason we were confused is that the team initially reported the adductor strain was on his left side, and then they switched it to his right, so they were confused as well. That's why we were confused on that. But this is sad on a number of different fronts. Number one, we've actually seen a glimpse of late of Royce Lewis, Byron Buxton, and Carlos Correa all clicking offensively at the same time. That's been rare and may never happen again. It's like a solar and a lunar eclipse happening at the same time to get those guys all on the same page offensively. Doesn't happen very often, so we lose that. It's also sad when you have to strip guys of their superpowers and say, all right, you can't play baseball as hard as you want to, because that's what's going to happen with Royce Lewis. I mean, after this, if he does come back, he's probably going to be restricted from playing defense every day. He's going to be restricted from stealing bases. He's going to be restricted from running hard to first base. We saw this with him last year in the playoffs where they said, all right, Royce, if you hit a ground ball, you're out, because they didn't want him to run. That's just so hard to watch when a player of that caliber has that stripped away from him. So that's just a total bummer as well. And I go back to this point to put a bow on it. Royce Lewis has yet to remain in the lineup for more than 34 calendar days in his career. He got to 28 this time, June 4th to July 2nd, before getting injured again. His longest stretch, 34 days, August 15th to September 19th of last year. So he basically can go a month at a time. You get a month of Royce Lewis, and then something else happens. That's the pattern that he's shown. And Ron, you likened him to Byron Buxton, and that is the most terrifying comparison of all, because Byron Buxton is now 10 years into his Twins career. Imagine that, 10 years into his career, he's only played more than 100 games one time. And that is the fear with Royce Lewis, that this is a Buxton path that eventually is going to strip him of all that makes him special, and suddenly he turns back into just an ordinary player instead of a superstar. So it's depressing right now to look at what's happening, and you got to knock on wood, hope that this is just a 10 to 14-day injury, and he can come back after the All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough when you say home run, line drive, or just come back to the dugout. Like, that's a crazy fate to say, you know what, he is better. I mean, think about the other players, though, too. Like, wait, so he gets to play because he can't, and he still can't run ground balls out, but I don't get to play? Like, I would be like, dang. But also, I mean, you get it. Like, he can hit home runs at a high clip. He can pound the ball to the outfield, so RBIs if there's a guy on second or third. Yeah, I mean, and the question is then, do you move him into a lineup spot that allows him to bat more balls in and not worry about being like a true, like, killer at the second or the third spot? Do you move him back to 5, 6, or 7 in hopes that 3, 4, and 5, or whoever your best on-base percentage guys are, do you move him behind them? Just say, look, we know you can put it in play. Maybe you can help us score some runs. You can hit some home runs to clear the bases. But I don't know if you're a leadoff guy or a second guy anymore because you can't run. And you're right, Sam. If you strip away his cape, he becomes an ordinary player. And I didn't know the Byron Buxton thing. I knew the jokes around Minnesota about him and, Byron Buxton in Florida. He runs to third base and everybody's like, oh, he's already limping and we haven't even got to the first game. So I hope that's not for Royce Lewis. I hope it's not. But then, do you start looking at the training staff for the Twins? Like, do you start looking at the conditioning setup for the Twins? Do you start looking at these? Like, at what point do you start to dive into maybe who these guys are seeing? Because you can go back to some other teams that have had great players who you don't hear this, who you don't see. Like, oh man, he's one of the best players ever. And was it Dela Cruz? That dude runs as fast as the wind. And I'm, I don't want to jinx him because Julia's here and she has a jinx covering her. But I know there's some guys, like, I love watching Ellie Dela Cruz, but there's some guys that when you see them, you're like, this guy never gets hurt. And then you see the Twins. And again, I go back to Minnesota sports. Like, is it because we're here and we see the issues, or are we truly cursed? I mean, there might be a 30 for 30 one day on Minnesota sports and just like punching walls, getting hurt for no reason, babies being born that are taking guys out of games, guys running into the wall, catching fly balls, receivers getting hit in the ribs, quarterbacks having an Achilles, receivers having an ACL. Like, kickers missing field goals. Like,
back to back, like, highlights reel of all of those things all at one time happening.
It literally could just be a low light of like all the big time stuff that could have been, and then injury comes in. Because I mean, if you think about the season with Josh Dobbs, if you put Kirk Cousins in that position, it's probably a 10 to 11 win team. Like, Josh Dobbs could have won so many low scoring games, and he didn't do it. So I don't know. Like, I just feel like Kirk Cousins could have got that done. But it is what it is. This is Minnesota. Like, we're here. We're loving it. Let's pray that Royce Lewis can come back healthy and finish the season out. But you just never know. Like Judy said, they have the All-Star break coming up, so on and so forth. But we got to talk about Netflix, because I right away said this the minute I saw receiver. I tweeted and I said, unpopular opinion, receiver's going to be way better than quarterback. Like, it was fun to watch quarterback for a little bit, and then it was like, all right, I'm just finishing this off because I got to finish this off. But this is not exciting anymore. Like, this is boring. This is not fun. But bring on the receivers. We know they're divas. We know they got personalities. We know they got the stuff. But we'll talk about all that much more after word. Quick word from our sponsor. Just want you guys to know, SiriusXM is a proud partner of Locked On. You can just download the SXM app on any app market. Just search SXM. Download it. And then you can search Locked On Sports Minnesota and download our podcast, all of our shows, and take them on the go. I was just in the airport flying to Detroit, and I was noticing a lot of people had their podcast devices up. They had SXM up. They had other devices. It's easy to do in the airport. Throw your headphones on. You can catch some sports, catch us live. Also, YouTube. You can get the YouTube app. You can watch us live on your phone with your headphones. Catch up on all the sports. See what we think about Justin Jefferson and the Minnesota Vikings coming up, because it's going to be a jam-packed season. We don't know if it's Sam Darnold. We don't know if it's J.J. McCarthy, but the SXM app will have it all. Just download Locked On Sports Minnesota on the SXM app, and you can take it with you on the go. Well, after this graphic comes up, we are going to get into this Netflix show.
We'll do a magic trick here. Hold tight.
I love the magic, and we're back. Well, people, Justin Jefferson, Netflix. They've done it.
Hey, Ron.
They've done it. I don't know. Yep.
Say Netflix again.
Netflix. Oh, too many E's. Oh, I put the E in. Netflix. Netflix. I like Netflix. Netflix.
Got a good ring to
Julia.
it.
So Netflix has done it. The one that I was concerned about, because he's a tight end, and I feel like I can't use that word because I've done that before, and I got taken out of a broadcast. They prematurely made a decision to add George Kittle to this. I think that was too premature. I think they should have held off on Kittle and done like a tight end running back, or just go Kelsey, Kittle. I mean, we have enough great tight ends to just do a tight end. And then the jokes with tight end as a word anyway, as a Netflix special, you don't know what you're going to get when you download that. Like, what were you going to say, Julia?
I think I honestly believe they probably asked Travis Kelce, and either when the Taylor Swift stuff started, he backed out of it or something like that.
No, that's confirmed. He declined. He declined. Okay. Yeah, he said he's over reality TV.
I was like, there's no way George Kittle was the top choice there. I was like, Travis Kelce 100% was the top choice. Okay.
But see, he's over reality TV because of his dating stuff. Like we saw the Kelsey whatever dating shows he joked about with, and then he met Taylor Swift, so on and so forth. The 1989 outfits, blah blah. I'm pretty sure Julia has a bunch of 1989 outfits ready to go. But when you look at this, I think Netflix went too fast. I think they should have just done receiver, let Kelsey and Taylor become normal, and then come back to them. Brothers retire. You're trying to take new heights to a new height. You're trying to do all that stuff. Your brother's on TV with ESPN. Your sister-in-law is hilarious. She's getting into fights in the street. Like they probably could have got Travis Kelce with Taylor Swift blessing. And of course we're seeing Julia Roberts now, and she loves some Swifty Kelce magic. But I think they should have waited and done Kittle, Kelsey, and like really came at them hard with money, because that would have this receiver is going to propel them into their next level, because quarterback didn't propel. Like I wasn't looking forward to any quarterbacks. Again, I'm like, I feel like quarterbacks are too protected. They don't want to say much. Receivers don't care. These dudes are going to say whatever's on their mind. You got Devontae Adams, you got Justin Jefferson. And what I'm most excited to see, and I don't know how much they're going to show this or not, but Justin Jefferson's attitude when he gets a new quarterback. Also, Justin Jefferson's attitude when he gets hurt. Like I want to see, like, were him and Kirk really on that same page, where it's like, sign Kirk or I don't want to be here, or is that just a narrative the Minnesota like fan base tried to add to argue this? Do we want Kirk? Do we not? I'm excited to see that. I want to see how Justin Jefferson takes to his first injury, because the quarterback throws him in the middle of the field. Him coming back to play, all this other stuff. And then we know the contract, because that was in the middle of this contract negotiations. And I wonder if they take that out and say, look, let's not even talk about this. And he has NFL, I know, and the agents is what I've heard, have full whatever control at the end, or final control of what it comes out looks
control.
Like. Yeah. So they can keep and remove stuff. I want to see what that looks like too with Justin Jefferson. I don't know. What do you about, Sam? What do you want to see?
Yeah. So with JJ, unfortunately, we know how the season went for him. It's going to be less about his on-field accomplishment and more about his rehabilitation. And that might be cool in one sense, is that it's all going to be behind the scenes, right? Rehab happens off the field, off camera. So we're going to see stuff that we've never seen before. Whereas, a lot of the Kirk Cousins season, a lot of that we'd seen already. We'd seen all the highlights. We'd seen a lot of the press conferences. It wasn't all new. Some of it was new. It wasn't all new. All the Justin Jefferson footage behind the scenes is going to be new. So that I think is going to be cool. Unfortunately, there's not going to be kind of a heroic coming back to the field story around him, because we know he came back. They lost every game. Nick Mullins was the quarterback, and it didn't go well when he came back. Aside from that, I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown will be sort of maybe the unsung hero of this season, because we know a lot about Kittle. We know a lot about Debo. We know a lot about JJ. Amon-Ra St. Brown is someone who I think could really shine, and Detroit is a really compelling team last year. So I'm excited for that storyline. And I don't know, overexposure to the 49ers might grate on me a little bit, having to see Debo and Kittle and going to the Super Bowl. That I think that's going to be a little bit annoying, but I'll watch it. I'll enjoy it. I think Kittle's a pretty cool guy. I'm excited for his storyline, even though he is a tight end, Ron. And we'll see how it goes. I'm guessing Jefferson does not get a lot of camera time late in the season as other guys are making playoff runs. I'm guessing that he probably fades into the background.
Yeah, true. I forgot about that, because how much do you want to see Justin Jefferson just rehab? So yeah, I think. But I will say, I'm guessing if there's any issues like blow-ups, Jefferson being pissed off, I wonder, especially since those quarterbacks are gone, or at least Dobbs is gone now. I wonder if they like come back and say, "Hey, he's not even your quarterback. Can we air this?" And not say he's mean, but more like, "Oh, I can't believe this happened," or who knows? Who knows how he takes it? But Julia, what are you most excited to see?
Well, I think it's also interesting because they play up the family side of everything in the trailer too, and JJ's really the only one that doesn't have like a significant other, at least that's in the public eye, and or has a child necessarily. I know there's some drama with stuff like that, but I think that that's something to be said too, because they talk so much about, like George Kittle says, like, my wife is my recharge. She's my charger when I go home. Like, she's the one that recharges my battery. And they talked so much about Amon-Ra and his family and that, all that stuff, and Debo and his kid. And so I think that that'll be interesting too, because that kind of sets JJ apart from the pack when it comes to this series. Is he has, I think they'll talk about his brothers for sure, and that being kind of his support group, but that's something interesting too. I think also we always see like the positive side of Justin Jefferson, and he's always laughing and always having a good time. And then they picked this season to do this Netflix series, and it's like probably the worst season of his entire life. You know, he hadn't missed this much football since he didn't start in high school, because he never had significant injury or anything like this. So I think I'm most excited to just see kind of like the real struggles that he goes through and kind of how he faces the adversity and handles it too. I don't question that he'll have I don't think he's going to sit there and have like a horrible character or something where we'll be like, well, we're so surprised that Justin Jefferson's not a nice person. I don't think that that's the case, but I think it'll be interesting to see, especially from Vikings fans' perspectives, that he does have more to him than just being like this happy-go-lucky guy that's so like joking around with everybody all the time, and kind of get to see the real personality and how he faces adversity, especially basically for the first time in his career. So I think that's something that I'm interested to see. And then it's also fun that this all comes out right before training camp too. So you kind of get to, then we'll get to training camp and we'll get to ask him about stuff that happened in this series. But for me, I think that that's what I'm most excited about, just to kind of see the behind the scenes Justin and, or Jets, as he wants to be called, Jets. He doesn't want to be called Justin anymore. Just to see who he really is, kind of get a more in-depth look at his personality and how he handles things. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, he wants to be Jets too, I think, because, well, I think this is before this, he wanted Jets. But now for sure with JJ McCarthy, he's like, I'm Jets. Don't call me JJ. You can have JJ. I'm Jets. I think he's trying to make sure that gets set out too. Maybe he's setting the stage for JJ to Jets, and he wants it to be clear. Like, it's not JJ to JJ. It sounds cool. But I have a question for the group. I was thinking about Netflix, and was thinking about just what could be the next step of this. And I don't know if they will do this, but what would you be more interested in seeing? Would you be more interested in seeing like older guys leaving the league, so like a Harrison Smith on his last ride? I'm trying to think who else is maybe retiring, but that group, or like a Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Jerry Rice following the season. So have them in their dailies, like whether they're around the team. And of course you could force some situations. Randy shows up to Vikings practice. Chris Carter shows up. So you could have Chris, Randy, Jerry Rice, and Terrell Owens. And Terrell Owens is showing up to the 49ers because he can't go back to the Eagles. But he's showing up to the 49ers. And you got Jerry Rice showing up to the 49ers and their relationship, you know, how that looked. And they talk about that, and they show up to practice. And then you got Randy and Chris. They talk about their relationship. I think I just put a show together. But they show their relationship with the Vikings, and then now being in the Hall of Fame. And these are 4 Hall of Famers, by the way. They get to go to Canton as well, and they show the next group of the Canton guys getting inducted, and those guys are there. Would you rather see that, or would you rather see like current players like a Harrison Smith? I don't know who else is on the way out. I can't think of names right now, but like towards the end of their career, and those 4 guys are like, here's the end. Like if it could have been like a Ray Lewis with like Eddie George and so on and so forth. What would entice you more? I'll go with you first, Sam.
Yeah, I like the veteran player angle. I think keeping it fresh with active players is probably the play there. I wonder if you wouldn't get enough content from retired players that are kind of adjacent to the game, but not really in the game. I don't know. Maybe it'd be interesting just based on the personalities you chose, but also you might get a lot of them just, you know, spending Monday and Tuesday going to the grocery store. I don't know. I don't know what Randy Moss does during the week. I have no idea. But I think that now that Netflix has gone off of quarterback into receiver and probably something different the year after that, like I think the possibilities are probably endless. They're probably going to get pretty creative with it. They know that this concept works. They're going to keep exploring new avenues. I would like to see coaches Would 4 coaches agree to this? I think that'd be pretty cool too.
Yeah, like I think Jason Kelsey, sorry. If they ever wanted to do a lineman show, they missed the boat with having Jason Kelsey retire too soon. Because that would have been a fun one to watch, Jason Kelsey with Jalen Hurts, and seeing what that dynamic looks like. You can go with like Trent Williams with the 49ers, because that's another guy that has a lot to say. You could find some funny, crazy offensive linemen, like Christian Darrisaw at tackle. We know he's kind of a younger, but Julia, older retiring guys, or would you like to see like Chris Carter, Randy Moss, and Terrell Owens, Jerry Rice type of deal? And those are the top 4 receivers ever, or 3 of them are the top 3. I love Chris Carter though.
I would agree with Sam. I would rather have an inside look on the organization as it is right now from a current player, just because you get more access, you get to see what's going on, get to see the day-to-day as it is rather than like people reflecting on it. I think it gives you a more accurate look at how things go. But yeah, I would have to say I'd want to see guys that are currently playing looking to retire if I had to pick between the retired guys versus the potentially retired guys. I always want to know the inside and out of the organizations as they are right now, because that's my job. So
yeah, could be GM. GM could be the next one. Who knows?
That would be really cool too. I think that would be a good Netflix show too. Always interesting to see how decisions are made and this, that, and the other. And I think that you would only get that with people that are in the organization as it is right now.
I think podcaster would be a good season. Podcaster, follow the lives of hardworking podcasters, get the dirt, all the gossip. I think that'd be pretty compelling.
Are you surprised that Stephon Diggs wasn't asked, or maybe he was and he declined?
I'm guessing a lot of guys declined based on the reports I've read. None of the quarterbacks wanted to do it, and I'm sure that applies to some receivers too. So.
Because I want to see a family one. Like, I love to see the Diggs brothers and the Kelsey brothers. I don't know who else has family in the league, but that would be a fun one too.
Well, the Kelsey brothers have a podcast.
Yeah,
they can keep it. They can keep the family talk there.
Love to see the brothers though.
Yeah, brothers in the league when they play each other. Blah blah. We know the Eagles, Chiefs. We know the Cowboys. Cowboys are going to play the Texans this year. That's going to be Mama Diggs. I know she's excited about that one. But we got to get out of here, people. Fans, let us know what you think. What Netflix special would you want to see? Would you want to see just a whole team? Like, just do one team for the entire Netflix season. Like, I don't know if they could carry that, or maybe a whole division. So, like the NFC North, AFC North. I don't know if that would work. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Exton. That's Julie Daniels. We want to thank you guys for joining us today on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Friday Roundtable. Remember, YouTube. Subscribe, people. We got to get our subscribers up before the season starts. Go to YouTube. Email address. Subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota. Get all of our shows around the clock, 24/7. Thank you. Have a great 4th of July weekend, people.